So for our next session, our final session of the day, but do not worry, at 5:30 after this next session, we have 3 case studies again for you guys. So at 5:30, go down to the agenda, click on that link down there, and it will take you to a Zoom breakout room, but you get to pick the case study of your choice. This is another choose your own adventure situation. So you're going to have a case study from Sony and Cantor's. I think that's a Canadian grocery store. I do not know what that is, but for all the Canadians out there, this is for you. Maybe you'll pick this one. We'll have one on Starlight Media and then one on how Sova and Verizon Wireless are making COVID-safe places work. So each are 15 minutes. You can do up to 2 because it will last until 6, and that is when the happy hour is. So without further ado, our next session is called Activating the Future of Digital Signage. So we've talked a lot about what's going on right now, what happened in the past, this past year, which has been just like on another level.
It literally has been the past year. We're in December. It's almost the end.
Oh my gosh.
It's almost the end of the year.
Okay, well, we're almost in 2021,
Wow.
which is crazy. But yeah, we're looking toward the future of digital signage because we've spent a lot of time talking about the present and the past, but let's really look to the future. And what we know is the future of digital signage, it's dynamic. It's integrated and it is hyper relevant. So it's here right now. And this is going to be a chance for you guys to dig into some key concepts around building a useful and engaging digital signage network that audiences will love today and in the years and years and years to come. So it's supposed to last. And this session is going to be hosted by Ryan Pogy. I hope I'm saying that right. He's a sales director at Broadsign. Ryan, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me today. I'm looking forward to talking to everyone.
Yeah.
So thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to talking to you today about the activating the future of digital signage. I want to take a moment to say thank you for putting this event together. Thanking Avixa and Digital Signage Federation for putting this all together and giving us the opportunity to speak, in a year where there's not a whole lot of opportunities. So totally appreciate that. A little bit about me. So I'm Ryan Pogy. That's how you say it. Ryan Pogy. I'll be your activation guide for today as we discuss the future of digital signage. So I am the director of sales for Broadsign North America. I'm going to keep Broadsign kind of out of it. It's just leveraging that experience that I bring to the marketplace for the last 10 years, where I've had the roles and privilege to work for a variety of digital out-of-home companies in my roles at Nielsen, measuring audiences and bringing insights to the marketplace for digital out-of-home through that perspective, and as well as working initially at the Digital Place-Based Ad Association, where I helped foster and bring together best practices to the marketplace. So it's really a bevy of all of that that I'm bringing to us today. So looking forward to the presentation. I'm going to talk about a couple of three key areas, right? So trends activating today, so trends that are guiding software decision-making for owners and operators today, as well as building that path to monetization. I think you guys all heard earlier about building that ROI and what are some of the key areas to measure for ROI. I'm going to talk a little bit about how software helps build that path to monetization and some of the key things that you need to consider as you build that, and then finally leave you with some key takeaways for the day. So with that, as a leader in the out-of-home space, I've had the privilege to work with the biggest, some of the biggest publishers in the out-of-home space around the world. We listen to that feedback and we take that feedback seriously and turn that into actionable insights. And so we're going to go through a couple of those trends that kind of guide our thinking and guide the thinking in the marketplace today. What you're seeing here is in this video, is about engaging audiences, and whether you call it digital signage, digital out of home, kiosks, wayfinding solutions, screens, networks, international communications platforms. There's all kinds of names that people call it. But what they all have in common is really about engaging a viewer in front of a screen in the right place in the right time. What you see here is, really cool and engaging content, right? It's Harry Potter. And content is king is used so often to paint the broad picture of what will take, what guides is a guiding principle behind building content for networks at scale. But it's relative, what's important is that you focus on what's timely and creates value to the viewer. And that video there, what I love about that video is it really demonstrates more about the traditional view of traditional out of home and how that can be engaging, but how do you take that same type of experience and bring that to market in maybe smaller screens and a larger network of screens. So the key trends that we're going to cover are thinking broadly, but engaging locally, preparing for the unforeseen and the rapidly advancing future. This pandemic has done a number of things to that, but what we're seeing is that it is driving growth into future capabilities. Adapting to the new reality and being flexible and having a system that is flexible for your needs today and into the future. And then we're going to finish off with some of those strategies for building and preparing for monetization. I like to say, think locally, right? So thinking about content and content scale, there are business needs, such as monitoring, large networks of screens. And certainly there's certain consideration sets that you need to have on that side, whether it's 5 screens, 100 screens, or several thousand screens. But as the content is concerned, it's, there's that element of spray and pray. And that level of, that type of thinking, has curtailed, especially in the last several years. It's more about ensuring that the message is packaged and delivered in the right context, in the right place, on the right screen, and not only just on the right screen in the right place, but in the right location on the screen and in the right part of the pod in the way that it's timed out on the screen, right? So a lot of things to consider when it comes to digital signage that, traditional digital networks maybe don't have to concern themselves as much with. So accounting for that level of variance between venue owners operating multiples of screens and engaging consumers with relevant content makes it a real challenge. And the value of the message is only as valuable as people engage with it. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what some of those key areas are and key considerations that you'll need to have as you think about your strategy for the future. Whether it's location level communication that is updated and relevant on a per site basis with menus and times and updates that are relevant to people in that specific venue. Enabling local content control is key and critical. It's one of the key things that we're seeing more and more networks do and look for is the ability to ensure that there's fresh information on that screen, whether that's piped in on the back end or brought to you, via mobile device. We like to think about that in kind of this concept that Cindy put together here, which was people hate advertising in general. Don't speak to me in broad terms, but they love it specifically, right? When something is really engaging and relevant to them on that screen, they find the value in what's on that screen. And she's considered the Michael Bay of businesswomen, where she blows up and makes things engaging for not only her business model, but to wow investors. And I think there's a key component of that we're all looking to support. One of the key considerations that you'll want to have as you make selections and as you have been hearing everybody else talk about, but it's the idea that whether I go with an open platform or a closed system that might have some key advantages. What we're seeing for the future is openness and integrations are going to continue to drive the future of digital signage and digital out of home. And in order to engage viewers with content that is important and valuable to them for the foreseeable future, you'll need to be able to engage, to integrate with those systems. Systems like point of sale, retail inventory, or finance systems, or ERP systems, as sometimes these networks get bought by larger conglomerate organizations. They need to fit into a larger ecosystem. And so having a platform that is open and integrated is crucial to your selection process. An open platform also means being able to pull in and suck in data from different places and be able to smartly activate that information, whether that's through things like weather feeds or lottery information, or as I mentioned, inventory levels. Those come from back-end systems, right, that provide value to the whoever's putting the message on the screen, but also to the consumer that's in front of that screen. We also like to think that APIs and API integrations are part of that. So not just web feeds, but API integration really is one of the key areas that we've seen in growth more and more. And so we've invested heavily in having API documentation made readily available through all parts of the system, so that users of the network are able to have access and do with it what they want, whether that's things like wayfinding, which wayfinding brings value to the user in front of the screen through an interactive interface, and APIs that pull in that content and show up on screen to wow audiences and give audiences real value. Those are key value propositions that help engage audiences, right? So having an open and integrated platform for that is a guiding principle. Likewise, mobile convergence, right? So I like to use this example of connectivity that delivers value to viewers through continued advancement and engagement. While NFC really is not anything terribly new in this marketplace, it's one of the later technologies. Whether it's NFC-based connectivity for mobile convergence, or if it's through dynamic content. We like to see more and more ways of screens being activated and engaged by viewers by using what's in their hand. And so one of the key consideration sets that needs to be considered there is whether it's as you're buying hardware and you're activating screens in market, going for the cheapest thing may not necessarily be the best. I think we've all seen a lot of issues around going for the cheapest versus going for what the best consideration is, and having a robust set of hardware behind the screen to enable and empower software to do what it does best at engaging audiences is a key and critical, right? What we see more and more and continue to see is that having hardware that is robust and locally managed honestly is kind of the best for what we see as the future of content strategies. That brings us to democratization. So democratization of a platform. So having a platform that is able to scale a network and activate a content strategy at scale, certainly that's something that's been around for a while. But the challenge is creating that screen stickiness, right? So what do I mean by that? And what does that have to do with democratization? Well, democratization means enabling the local user to put content on screen that is relevant to that location. So again, back to whether that's menus or updates that the doctor's out of office for whatever reason for an extra hour. Those are key kinds of things that bring value back to the viewer, brings value to the hardware, to the owner and operator of that location, but also helps democratize the system so that users are getting the most out of it. So as you consider software solutions, there is a high expectation of two divergent demands: that sophistication that a network operator needs to have, as well as the ease of use. Two key considerations. That ease of use part is where, as you continue to democratize things, we like to think of it as making it as easy as social media to use, right? But as a network operator, you need that sophistication, but you don't want to lose control over the quality of content on the screen. So having, template-based persona-driven solutions and systems helps, users of the system succeed in reaching their audience. So how do you do this efficiently? Well, literally with web-based or mobile-based tools is, I think, a key consideration. I think it's something everybody should be asking of their software providers, and having a robust set of digital signage tools, right? So democratization and bringing that easy social media type interface helps cater to everything from the top down, right? From the head of communications for a network to the personas scheduling information at the screen level, to the network operations center in the back end that needs to ensure that every pixel is firing from delivering pixel to cache solutions, right? Keep moving on here. Another key consideration with that type of democratization is the ability to have that automated. It's one thing to do that on a per location basis, and sure, you can build a playlist for one or a few locations. But as you scale a network and as you need to continue to deliver that level of specificity, you need an automation engine. So ensure that you're choosing software that enables automation. Whether that automation lives at the screen level, which again, I've made a little bit of a pitch there for having robust hardware at powering each individual screen, or whether that decisioning lives in the cloud. We're seeing a continued growth there for cloud-based automation, and certainly there's cost considerations for both, right? There's that upfront cost for robust hardware that enables really cool, engaging content at the screen versus cloud-based decisioning and cloud-based feeds, which you're going to run into data and transmission costs and connectivity, potential issues. So it's really, those are two key areas that we're seeing growth on the automation side of things, whether that's location level or in the cloud. And so those are, two things that I encourage everybody to ask about and really delve into what's going to make most sense for them. But since we're talking about the future, it's critical to outline that you need to, think about these things also in context of where you're going with it. And we'll talk a little bit about that as we get into the monetization area. As you consider those things, the automation engine, whether that lives locally or in the cloud, there's many elements to consider of features that your system will need to meet the expectations of viewers, especially as viewers' experiences with screens, right? They continue to be so advanced on their on mobile devices that they expect as good or better to happen on large screens in locations. So there's many of considerations beyond the scope of this presentation, but some of the key ones that I like to think of are, right, the meeting the needs of venue partners, right? So venue partners have complex scheduling considerations that they need to have at their fingertips. They need to, meet the needs of local jurisdictions, local governmental agencies with emergency messaging, or it's just a good best practice, right? to have emergency messaging capabilities show up on your screens. That can throw a wrench in things, especially if you're an ad-based network or a marketing-based network. Where does this emergency message show up, and how does it look? How does it not overwhelm the viewer, right? Then there's marketing and advertiser objectives, whose expectations are ever advancing, especially for digital signage, right? If you've got the name digital in there, can you do and execute in the same way that I expect for things to happen in web or on devices? And so, what we see for advertisers, they're looking for increased targeting, increased specificity of messaging and delivering to an audience, as well as, I need competitive separation. I need I need Nike not to show up next to Adidas or whatever the use case may specifically be. That brings a level of brand safety that, advertisers and marketers will value as they think about the ways that they want to use the screens that you're investing money in and devoting a significant amount of time to supporting. And so also having certification, so nefarious content can't show up on screens, are things that we continue to see are driving investment areas for us as a software platform. But throughout my career, it started off pretty simple and has continued to advance, especially as more and more advertisers get into this marketplace and local marketers, begin to leverage it. So let's talk about what that means in trending towards monetization. So I will say that is a leader in the out-of-home, digital out-of-home advertising marketplace. We have a great opportunity to sit and listen to what not only the publishers and network operators find most valuable and important, but also what their advertisers and their clients around the world value and how they want to activate audiences and monetize those screens. It's critical to have a dedicated process for listening and have that feedback show up in product roadmaps and activations in short time periods, as well as building towards a future that everyone can actually get behind and begin to talk about how they're going to monetize. That key area for us as we consider strategies for monetization continues to be understanding and knowing your audience. A key step to ease into that democratization, as I talk about that, and build value is to have a few key simple audience profiles. Advertisers love to make things really complex, but when you talk about democratization and making something easy for a local user to use their mobile device and put new messaging on a screen, think about what the simple key pillars of your audience are, whether that's men 35 to 54 or young women, or if it's an older skewing audience. Having a clear, defined picture enables the local user to think and put messages that are relevant to those people on the screen in real time, potentially, or plan for what messages they want to put on that screen in the future. In addition to, internal, so where does this information come from, right? So knowing your audience. You can absolutely leverage your internal, feet on the street that know who's coming through their doors in that location, and, as I mentioned, enabling them to activate that. But there's also other sources of data. And you should be planning for a strategy to pull in that data through a technology source. So there's things like anonymous video analytics, mobile sniffing devices, or good old-fashioned market research that your marketing team might have already at their fingertips. But knowing that audience and having that simplified audience profile truly helps bring value at every step of the process. Do beware of that data monster, though. Keep it simple to engage, keep audiences. Try to pick a partner for the future that has that understanding of simplifying the information for you and helping you understand that and activate that, but also has the capabilities to provide more sophisticated solutions for the future as you monetize your data. With that data, you can build a structure for monetization. We like to think that every impression is a valuable impression to someone, and we truly do see that. But what exactly does that mean, right? An impression is what somebody viewing the screen. Certainly, whoever owns the screens and put that screen up believes there's value in that screen and invested in getting that message out there. And so it should logically follow that as the technology democratizes the ability for other people or other parties to engage with that screen, your technology partners need to help enable that capability. And certainly advertisers are finding ways to activate digital screens and digital out of home as a smart and contextually relevant way of engaging audiences. So having a platform that can enable buyers to find that inventory, find an audience, and know that they're engaging, truly engaging a person in a place when they're about to make a decision, will help them enable to buy more time and help you monetize your inventory. We see this most commonly as buying audiences in locations. But as the more you know your audience and have a technology partner that enables you to activate that future today, potentially, you need to have also a strategy for automating and rebalancing current content strategies. What we've seen, in this year of a pandemic is that even though we're still in pandemic times, and even though we're starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel, programmatic buying, so the ability to buy screens in an automated fashion, has actually rebounded faster than any other source of our partners' businesses, right? So they've all had, most of them have had a direct sales channel before, and that is slowly coming back and resuscitating as audiences continue to go out. But on the programmatic side, that automation of being able to buy and push content to screens through these partnerships, right? Revenues on the programmatic side are actually at the highest that we've ever seen, because advertisers are taking their budgets from other areas that are not as effective right now as people are sitting in their homes, but finding audiences and retargeting those budgets to when people are out of the home, hit them, make sure that they're being targeted and spoken to, because that actually does bring value to the people into those locations. But critically, that puts pressure on you as a network operator on how you manage your inventory, right? And so while we're seeing advertisers return and shift budgets successfully into this marketplace, the need for automated inventory management and sophisticated time management systems continues to be an area of investment. It's a big area of investment that advertisers are driving, honestly. And what you want is to have an automation system that can dynamically repace content to ensure that the venue owners are still happy with, that their content message is showing up on screen as they expect it, but also that advertisers are able to get their messages onto screen in a robust and engaging way. It truly does deliver value for all. So with that, I'm going to finish off here with kind of a summary of a few key takeaways, right? So if you didn't pay attention to the rest, here's your time to hear me summarize it all, right? First is the proliferation of digital content and video everywhere, right? It's showing up in screens where People haven't expected it before. This is going to require you to make decisions and be more open than ever before to partnerships, and having a technology back end that enables you to connect to those systems. I mentioned democratization of screens, so that you can think broadly about where you want to go, but also continue to engage locally and authentically. That's a key strategy that you need to have in your content strategy, and have a system in place, a set of rules and tags and targets to automate that strategy. Third is knowing your audience. Plan for a means to capture that information. Ideally, yes, through some form of technology. Obviously, being mindful of certain guidelines that are in the marketplace for privacy concerns. But get out there. Start to think about what that strategy is, whether that's cameras, Wi-Fi sniffing devices, whatever it is. It can be old school RFID counters, right? Just counting people's going through locations. Have an idea of what that audience is and how you can leverage that information. And then finally, all of that is going to lead to a path to monetization. Spend time learning what approach is going to work really well for you guys. With those four things, I think you'll be able to activate the future today. You'll have the knowledge that you need to activate the future today, and turn your screens into not only something that is valuable to you and the way that you operate your screens, but also the way that advertisers can activate those screens, and viewers will get value out of it. Thank you guys so much for your time today. I really appreciate everyone for tuning in. I hope you guys found value in it. I think they mentioned that there are case studies following this. Starlight is a client of ours that does use the Broadsign platform. He's going to elaborate exactly on many of the topics that I consider that I spoke about here today. You can also visit us on our website, broadsign.com, or connect with me through LinkedIn, Ryan Pogy, four letters, Ryan Pogy. Should be simple, and I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you so much for your time today.
Awesome. Ryan, before I let you go, I wanted to thank you so much for finishing today on such a high note, because from everything you've said, it seems like the future's looking pretty bright, huh?
Future's bright, and the opportunity to activate it is here today.
Yes, 100%. Just really quick, I had a question for you. So when you were talking
Sure.
about automation engines earlier, you said locally right now is like what is the cleanest and fastest option, but 5G is super up and coming, and people are really starting to look into that, use that, be interested in that as well. So do you think that most people are readily interested, or are at least trying to adopt 5G in the cloud, or are they still kind of holding on to local, in your opinion?
Yeah, so it is a trend, right? 5G has garnered attention for a variety of reasons, but as it relates to our space, I think it's going to open up opportunities to put screens where they've never been able to be put before, and enable a means by which to engage people and viewers in front of those screens where they may never have had an opportunity to engage with the screen before. So I think there's definitely an opportunity there, but 5G doesn't necessarily make things cheap. It might make things easier to put something somewhere in a smaller form factor, but you have to evaluate the pros and cons of am I going to leverage bandwidth and the cloud and 5G for getting content to a screen, or am I going to rely on a more robust, localized screen level solution? Pros and cons.
Right. But yeah, and you said it's a trend, but the thing about trends is a lot of them fizzle out. But I feel like a lot of people would argue that 5G is only going to stay, and it's only going to get faster from here, and only more things are going to go into the cloud. So, do you think it's personally here to stay, and it's around forever?
I think that the trend that will fizzle out with 5G is whatever the next thing is for 6, whether it's 6G or whatever that is.
6G.
Uh, yeah, it's definitely not fizzling out and going away. It's fizzling up and going to the next thing. It just happens to be the latest thing for us. So yes, it's a key area of growth.
Well, thank you so much. Thanks again for ending us on a really great note and looking forward to the future. So thanks again.
Yeah, certainly.